Tora has agreed to come say hello to her adoring fans. See? There she is. Such a pretty kitty cat. Say hello to your adoring fans, Tora. Say hi. Look at, there's a kitty in the computer. She says, I don't want to look. Yes, you're a good kitty, but I'm not opening the door for you to go play until I'm done here. It's cold out, and I don't have a fur coat. Okay, let's just kind of relax while people settle into the chat room. Here you go. Have some temptations. Mix ups. Backyard cookout. Oh, here comes Sweetie. She won't let me pick her up, but she'll eat the treats. Yeah, there, here you go. I'm rationing the treats because they're running out and I can't get more until tomorrow. Uh, for most groceries, I really can go around the corner to the mini mart at the gas station and get a couple things, but they don't carry cat treats. They do have dog treats. Huh, Tora. Yeah, well, I'm not opening the door for you to go OUT because it's cold out and I have to sit here and talk to people. Yes. Well, today, some random ramblings and a little bit about my book about the exegesis of Philip K. Dick. I'm still working on it and my brain hurts. Oh, Lord. It's not only a huge pile of notes, both typed and handwritten, but also very, very dense. It requires deep thinking. Uh, my health is what it is. Hmm, sorry. Um, I'm still underweight and shorter than I used to be. And I've had chronic pain for so long that I often don't notice it till I try to do something and I get a sharp pain, especially in the broken hip that has been healing for about 6 months and still needs more time to heal. It's true what they say, up with the good foot, down with the bad. If I do it wrong, my broken leg lets me know in no uncertain terms. In fact, I can't go up a stair with the bad leg. In most cases, I can't lift it that high because my knee is also messed. Evil phone. My knee is also messed up and it won't bend that much. Um, move the phone away from the computer so if it does that again, it won't blast anyone's eardrums. Hey, I'm happy every morning when I wake up. The alternative is not acceptable. I still have things to do. Let's see. I've got to find my work in progress. I've written some more since releasing the uh, very slim 50-page book of what I had done so far. I had promised something to be available by Christmas, so I rushed it out. The book is far from complete. Life keeps getting in the way. And cats. I fed you guys. Go eat your cat food. I even gave you fresh water. Fresh water is important for cats. Okay, let's see. Um, Here we go. Where's the little close that thingy? What page is this? Oh, oh, that's what happened. Huh, all right. I thought I'd talk about twins because Phil was a twin and he was obsessed with the idea that his twin infant must have been reborn so he might meet her someday. Well, he also latched onto dualism in his theology, the idea of two gods, a good God and an evil God. Everybody should have cats. They're pestering me. Um, well, of course, he did delve into Zoroastrianism, the Persian religion founded by Zoroaster. It's really unclear exactly when he lived, although it's certain that he did live. He was a prophet who wrote a book about two gods in constant battle. Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Light. There's a science fiction novel by that title, and I keep forgetting the name of the author. See, I never was all that much into science fiction before I met Phil. Okay, Roger Zelazny. Okay, I thought it might be. Roger Zelazny wrote Lord of Light, and he, of course, was Phil's co author for his novel Deus Irae. That's Deus, and the second word is Irae. It should be Eri, but Phil called it Erie. Kind of a pun on the term eerie, as in spooky or strange. It means God of wrath. And of course, it's a post atomic war scenario. Well, anyway, Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Light, is in constant battle against Ahriman, the Lord of Darkness. And I can't help thinking of the warning that Father Malachi Martin gave to Art Bell during an interview on the radio. Remember radio? Um, Father Martin, who was an exorcist, said, "When you die, do not go to the light. It's a trick." And that was in reference, of course, to the Bardo Thurdo of Hinduism. Hi, Juan. Juan from Argentina, reading the Divine Comedy while listening to Adele. Okay, let's see. Welcome in, Juan. Um, they made me read the Divine Comedy in college. I'm glad they did. Many, if not most, many atheists demand that Christians and Jews explain and justify what they know about the Bible, which isn't in the Bible at all. It's in Dante's Divine Comedy and Milton's Paradise Lost. And, well, Dante was following the tradition of his time when he wrote about heaven, hell, and purgatory. It was Catholic tradition. It isn't in the Bible. And Milton was a heretic. So there. It ain't in the Bible, guys. There's a school called Dante Alighieri. Nice. I always pronounce that wrong. It's Alighieri. Um, Idios Cosmos Keys for something. Hmm. Well, and then there's a bit from Shakespeare, I think, like The Tempest. Hi, Howard. I'm just kind of rambling before I get into reading from my book about the exegesis. It's still a work in progress, but I am making progress. It's much more work than I thought it would be, but I'm drawing upon what I know, what Phil wrote, and what others say about his work. Not necessarily what they say about the exegesis, but what they say about his novels. And of course, Phil was fascinated by the idea of twins because he was a twin, and because his twin sister died as an infant, about 6 weeks old. So she died around the time she should have been born if those babies had gone full term. Hi, Oswald. I drink too much coffee too. I'm cutting down a little, but of all the things in the world that you might be addicted to, coffee has one of the worst withdrawals. Horrible headache. Light hurts your eyes. You'd swear it was a migraine, and upset stomach to go with it. That's very good. Your English is very good, Juan. It's hard for me to type and talk at the same time. Let's see, Argentina. You probably speak Portuguese. Either that or Spanish. I get confused about which countries speak Portuguese, but I think Argentina's language is Portuguese, which to my ear sounds like more like French than Spanish, and I can't spell Portuguese words. Hmm. Brazil speaks Portuguese. Okay. It's funny though. Hmm. One of my stepsisters married a German man. I guess he was from Brazil, but I always thought it was Argentina. But he spoke Portuguese and German and English. A lot of German colonies in South America. Anyway, Victor seemed like a nice person, but I never was close to him. And I don't have to hang out with my stepsisters anymore. We met as adults. We did not grow up together. The only thing I really liked was that they played cards. They played pinochle, and I love pinochle. Um, it's a lot like bridge. So I can play bridge, but I keep forgetting the order of the suits. Um, there's the highest suit and the lowest suit when you're bidding, and I just can't keep them straight in my mind. Oh yes, I Juan, I learned Mexican Spanish. My brother learned Castilian. We cannot communicate in Spanish because, well, now things have changed a lot. I learned in the 1960s. Well, now you don't go to the mercado in your automobile. You go to the store O in your car O. They've been picking up English words. In Germany, many of their words are actually English words. It started with Levi's and Coca Cola. But I learned Schuldeutsch, school German, in college. And I meet people who learned Wisconsin German. A lot of Germans in Wisconsin. It's different, very different. But I love languages. I learned a little Latin and what they call Attic Greek in high school, more Latin than Greek. Greek is very difficult, but modern Greek is nothing like what Plato wrote when he wrote in Greek. It's nothing like the New Testament Greek of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Paul. Modern Greek to me sounds like Spanish, and it's very close. I mean, for example, in ancient times, the word for water was hydros, Hydros, water, like hydrogen, which got its name from the Greek word for water. Well, today in Greece, If you say hydros, they don't know what you're talking about. Water is agua, just like Spanish. They probably got it from the Romans who invaded Greece. Aqua. Really, Oswald? Germans and Scandinavians in Wisconsin. You get a better idea of their differences? Well, actually, modern Germans are more closely related to the Vikings than to the original Germani, the Celtic tribe that settled there. The French people, we often call them Gallic, they are more like the Germani than the Germans are. People move, and it's been hundreds and even thousands of years of moving. Russia was conquered by Vikings who happened to be German, red haired German Vikings. I think the guy's name was Redbeard, but don't quote me on that. It's been, let's see, I studied the world history in 1978 or 9, and oh, Nazis were horrible. But man, they were demon possessed. There's no way around it. Those who did not truly believe had to pretend to believe in Nazism if they wanted to live. They had to do things they didn't want to do. And it's horrible. The worst thing, according to Philip K. Dick, the worst thing that the Nazis did was to force us to become like the Nazis in order to defeat them. Now, I know it looks foggy in here. It isn't. It's just the way the sunlight comes in from the windows. It does weird things to the camera. It's actually a bright, sunny day, and in a few minutes the light will change and the picture will clear up. Well, there's been a lot of um, writing about a camp in Argentina that apparently is still owned by Nazis. I can't remember the name of the camp right now, but there are YouTube videos about it. A large estate with fences and gates and guards. It really isn't the center of my research, so I haven't looked into it in quite a while. Let's see. Oh, I have to moderate a comment because where'd it go? It disappeared. I was trying to approve it, Viken, but here we go. Held for review. Okay, it's there now. I guess you aren't allowed to mention the Pentagon in chat rooms. I don't know. Father Malachi Martin, the famous exorcist who supposedly fell but probably was pushed and died. He was in his 80s, very old. He hated the Jesuits. He was a Jesuit and he got the Pope. I don't remember which Pope, but he got the Pope to release him from his Jesuit vows so he could write the truth about the Jesuits. Um, when people blame Christians for the Inquisition, especially the Spanish Inquisition, that was primarily the Jesuits. Not all of the Christians, not all of the Catholics, but Jesuits, and to some extent, and this breaks my heart, Franciscans. St. Francis was a kind and gentle saint who preached to the animals in the forest, and they abused his name for a cult of monks who participated in the Inquisition. Now I'm not certain, I'm not the one who did this research and presented the story, but it appears that the main purpose of the Inquisition was to complete the purging of the Knights Templar after King Philip the Fair of France fell so deeply in debt to the Knights Templar that he needed a way out. Oh, Bariloche, huh? Okay. Well, anyway, there's all kinds of weird things going on all over the world, and a lot of them are here in California. I was born and raised in California and never managed to escape. I have too many roots here, too many ties. But apparently, the Nazis are still active in Argentina and other parts of South America. Mm. I have come to the conclusion, by the way, that cigarettes for me are painkillers. I cannot take most pain pills. And I don't like marijuana. Um, what is that thing called? There's some plant, kratom is dangerous. It can be very toxic. I haven't tried CBD oil, but cigarettes do relieve pain. Phil didn't smoke, at least that's what he said. He had been a smoker when he was younger, and he would occasionally smoke a cigarette. But he got Dean Swift snuff, which he often mentioned in his novels. You don't shove it in your cheeks like that crud that they sell now in every convenience store. You tap a little onto your hand and sniff it in. That's why it's called snuff. You sniff it. So, yeah. And sometimes he'd light a cigarette. It might be a Dunhill from England, or Gauloise from France, or a Krakatoa Kretek from Indonesia or India. But sometimes those things would explode because they had cloves in them, and cloves tend to explode when you get them hot. Ah, Well, I don't need drugs to alter my mind. It's already altered. And I was totally prepared to take Phil seriously when he had his paranormal experiences, his religious experience, because I had so many experiences of my own. I had seen a UFO. It was not a flying saucer, it was a glowing orange red globe. I had experienced hauntings and strange experiences like ESP. I couldn't read minds, but if someone was sending thoughts, I could receive them. It isn't like you can dig into someone's mind and learn their secrets, but if someone is concentrating on a thought, especially a negative thought, apparently um, negative feelings are stronger than positive ones, so hate is more easily seen than love. And a famous psychiatrist named, okay, I lost his name, Sullivan, Harry Stack Sullivan, actually experimented walking through the ward of the paranoid people in the mental hospital. He would think specific thoughts at a specific patient deliberately. It would usually be something like, I'm going to punch you in the nose. And that patient would walk up to Sullivan and tell him exactly what he'd been thinking in words. Some like, no, you are not going to punch me in the nose. I won't let you. Or, you said you were going to punch me. You were going to hit me and kick me. Don't do that. So maybe paranoid people are not quite as crazy as we think they are. They're just very sensitive psychics. Ah, well, the MK Ultra boys, or whoever they were teaching a group of us school children how to perform what today you would call remote viewing. I got myself kicked out of the program because I didn't trust those guys. I sensed something wrong. So maybe I was paranoid, but I was right. Later in high school, I know I was studied. Mom sent me to this school that was run by a psychiatrist because mom thought I would become sexually active in a public high school. I was not interested in sex. But anyway, I'm convinced that that psychiatrist was studying us. Tried to tell us how elite and special we were. Horse pucky. I don't want to be elite and special anyway. Whatever they had in mind, I wasn't having it. And after 1 year, they graduated my class. Um, and I was ready to go to public school, but mom found another school that I could attend where I wouldn't become sexually active. Little did she know, one of my classmates became pregnant by another classmate. Oh, I didn't. I wasn't into that. But we were all misfits who just didn't fit into the regimented schools. I remember mostly in public schools being taught to line up and march, to sit still, be quiet, and do what you're told. And guess what? Our public system, our public education system was developed in Germany when they realized that they needed to teach men in particular to line up, march, and obey orders because they'd be better soldiers and better factory workers. That is the real purpose of our public schools. Yes, Prussian, exactly. I shouldn't really say German. Prussia today is primarily a part of Poland. Poland got Prussia after World War II. Um, but Germany and Russia, Germany and Poland fought over Prussia for centuries. Anyway, let's see about the twin thing. That's what I wanted to get to in the exegesis. Um, all right, here's a quote from the exegesis. I don't believe it's in the published book. It is available at Zebrapedia, where but it's from folder 30, early 1978. Yeah, I was going to put in a link and I never did. um, anyway, this is Phil writing in his exegesis. Neither the black iron prison world nor the palm tree garden world is our universe. Ours is the hologram composite of the two. They are the two laser sources. Now remember, in 1978, holographic images were really a new thing. The technology needed some more development before it would be practical. But I'm convinced that either our military or our spy agencies had a more advanced form of holographic imaging. And I think they used it on Phil. Okay, now back to what Phil wrote. It is no wonder I mistook them for two dipolar alternate universes to ours, one worse, one better. All I had to do was turn to my grand theme, for example, in Maze, in Stigmata, and I, etc. Those are his novels, A Maze of Death, The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, and The Eye in the Sky. Back to Phil, and perceive our composite mixed universe as irreal, i.e., hologrammatic. Tessa saw this at once. Yeah, so rather than seeing us living in the prison and hoping to enter the palm tree garden, we're actually a composite of the two twin universes, according to this. Now, I could see things because I had actually studied science and Phil had not. He was all literature and philosophy. I'll never catch up with him, but I keep trying. Now, here's a quote from. No, this isn't the quote. This is me. In his novel, The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, Philip K. Dick presents two competing realities in the form of two drugs. Can D offers an enjoyable X-rated experience to help people escape from the boredom and isolation of their life in small domes where they huddle on an extraterrestrial colony, or in their connapts on a home planet, presumably Earth, that writhes in the last throes of a global warming catastrophe. Chu Z offers a descent into hell, an abyss in which they lose their very humanity. Both drugs offer ersatz realities, but one is more beneficent while the other is tyrannical. The peddlers of these drugs, Leo Bulero and Palmer Eldritch, can be seen as competing deities, although neither is the creator. They are little demigods vying for dominance over an imperfect but optimistic race of ordinary human beings and the reality that they perceive. Even in his early work, he presents dual cosmologies and twin entities. Lorenzo di Tommaso interprets Dick's dualistic concepts as Gnostic with a capital G, but as argued in an earlier chapter, Gnosticism is not dualistic. To be sure, the Marcion heresy asserts that the evil God of the Old Testament opposes the good God of the New Testament, but even in this case, one God is supreme while the other is lesser. Marcion, an early Christian heretic, was influenced by Zoroastrianism, and he was very anti Semitic. He hated Jews. Never mind that Jesus is a Jew, he hated Jews. Hence, the evil God of the Old Testament. Yes, thank you. Many thanks to Professor Richard Doyle for Zebrapedia. Radio Free Albemuth is also my favorite. Definitely. And the movie. The movie is very low budget and it's an excellent movie anyway. Who needs car chases and explosions and shootouts? That's just fluff. The movie is great. I don't remember at the moment. Sometimes it's on Netflix and sometimes it's on Amazon Prime, and it might be available elsewhere. I know that you can buy the DVD and there's a book of Radio Free Albemuth. Now, so Lorenzo di Tommaso in Gnosticism and Dualism in the Early Fiction of Philip K. Dick from Science Fiction Studies, Volume 28, Di Tommaso says, all the same, and despite the conflation of several rather interesting Platonic, Pauline, and Gnostic with a little g Christian ingredients, the chief lens through which Dick projects the dualism of the cosmic puppets in Zoroastrianism, the pre-Christian religion that is understood by many scholars to be one of the important contexts from which sprang Jewish and Christian dualism, especially in their apocalyptic or Gnostic varieties. The contest is ultimately, sorry, I gotta edit something. Ah, this is what I get for cutting and pasting. Oops. Ah, got it. All right, back to what Di Tommaso says. The contest is ultimately between Ahriman and Ormazd, and the age-old battle between evenly matched forces of light and dark, good and evil. It's time to recycle some coffee, so if you need a short break, let's see. Juan says Peter F. Hamilton he was reading Peter F. Hamilton telling a story about an advanced neurological activity that builds a new religion. Well, Phil was not trying so much to build a new religion as to understand the faith in which he immersed himself, primarily the Episcopalian Church, but when his friend Bishop Pike became a heretic, Phil began questioning and researching and considering. Okay, I will be back in a minute or so. So if you need to get coffee or recycle coffee, this is your chance. Don't go away. I'll be right back. I'm coming. Almost there. Here we are. By the way, the t shirt I'm wearing was given to me by, it says, Mind over Matter. Okay. So Kratom has withdrawals, huh? But using Thanks, Lucas. And hi, Tim. Kratom can make people very ill. I've never tried it myself. I don't need to dabble in trendy things. I suppose the good old marijuana might work, but marijuana today is not like what I tried when I was in high school around 1965 or 6. No, it would have been 67. Well, anyway, you had to smoke the whole baggie full of marijuana to get high. All it ever did for me was make me hungry. But then I don't need my mind altered, it's already out there. I'm fond of telling people I might be crazy, but I don't ever think I'm stupid. Don't call me stupid. There will be a price to pay if you do. Okay, now back to my writing about the three stigmata and the idea that there is a creator above the two forces that are in battle. This probably needs some editing, but I'll go ahead and read what I wrote. Yeah, I'm going to do a quick edit. Okay, for Philip K. Dick, God contained all pairs of opposites. So, in a sense, God did not exist because the opposites canceled each other, leaving nothing that could be observed. In fact, no observer existed to attempt to see God. In the sense that God could not be observed, God was no thing or nothing and did not exist, at least not in a way that we could understand. Oh, that's not for. Yeah, I think it is. Okay. In order to fulfill the desire to exist, this is not for Phil, this is for Gnostics. Okay. Didn't understand. Not for Phil, but for Gnostics. And yet it is very close to Phil's fascination with Hinduism and Zoroastrianism and other forms of dualism. So let's start that over. For Gnostics, God contained all pairs of opposites, so in a sense, God did not exist because the opposites canceled each other, leaving nothing that could be observed. In fact, no observer existed to attempt to see God. In the sense that God could not be observed, God was no thing or nothing, at least, and did not exist, at least not in a way that we could understand. In order to fulfill the desire to exist, God divided itself, and that's important, is itself, not himself, not herself. God at this point is an it. God divided itself into two parts, one containing the active aspects of the deity, the other containing the passive aspects of the deity. Like the yin yang symbol of Taoism, each part contained a small amount of the other part. In other words, the active half contained a small portion of the passive, and the passive half contained a small part of the active. This was done so each half of God would remember the other half, since each had a small portion of the other as a reminder. I'm not going to say this is Gnostic. I think that's going a little too far, although some Gnostics did believe this. I'll say for dualists, like some Gnostics. Hey, making me read this to you is helping me to edit it and make it better. It's the Zoroaster thing. But for the Gnostics, when God divided itself, made a small part of itself female, while it became male, and then they had children. The eons or emanations. But this is more on dualism. And see, there's no one Gnosticism. The details of Gnosticism vary among different small groups and different cultures. In Persia, for example, their Zoroastrian dualism is primary. For Levant and Rome, it's more Marcion and Mani, as in Manichaeism. In Egypt, boy, you'll find hints of Isis and Osiris. Now, back to the God splitting itself in half. Since each twin contains the opposite of the other twin, and since God is everything, one twin contains existence while the other contains non existence. In other words, the active twin exists and contains a small amount of non existence, while the passive twin does not exist and contains a small amount of existence. Our universe exists in a narrow swath where the twin universes formed by the splitting of the deity overlap. They are not completely separate, and each is aware of the other. Each half of the deity is also aware of our existence. Okay, so when we get to this part, um, I'm typing something in. Uh, typo. So when we get back to twins, it's really about Phil. Um, oh wow, I've gone way past. I want to get into more about twins. I had a chapter that was something about twins. I must have deleted it. Humph. Lord. Let's go to the top. I'm going to have to make a table of contents and chapter notes. I don't know if I can make an index. I don't have fancy software. I have what I got for free. Let's just take a paragraph from the preface here. First, I'll check in on the chat room. Hello, Evie, Everett, and Oswald. Oswald is here. Um, Okay. Enki and Enlil. Phil didn't know much about the tablets from Mesopotamia, Babylon, Sumer. Um, oh, come on, brains fried. The ancient kingdoms. He knew something about the Dead Sea Scrolls, but even those were not really widely available till around 1978 or 9. That's one of my big problems with academia. Hi, Sandra. You guys missed a lot. Um, I don't blame the professors in the publisher perish environment. They don't even get paid for writing their academic papers. And in many cases, they have to pay to be published in journals that are so expensive that only a university can afford a subscription. So if you are not in the faculty of that university, or at least a graduate student, you don't get to see these academic papers. And so when the Dead Sea Scrolls scholars got their hands on the scrolls, they didn't want to share. This was a major discovery and a major undertaking to put back together all the little fragments, tiny pieces of parchment, and translate them. Things written in Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew, and some other languages. I can't really blame the scholars. I blame the institutions that make that necessary. But it took forever for a translation of some of the scrolls to become available for people who just wanted to buy a book and read it. That's detailed in my book. I think that, yeah, that information should be in the Kindle and paperback versions of my work in progress. Ah, and more information is coming out. And then there's Nag Hammadi. Let's see. The Gnostic texts from Egypt. Those were even more difficult to access, but uh, they were written in Coptic, an alphabetic, sort of Egyptian, sort of Greek, but mostly Egyptian language, written in a Greek script. So Phil probably knew more about the Nag Hammadi manuscripts than the Dead Sea Scrolls. And of course, the Nag Hammadi, they were codexes. They were actual books that you fold open and closed. Um, he probably knew more about those. They were easier to access in translation. Okay, now from my preface about Philip K. Dick, his unflagging work on the exegesis began with his visionary experience of 1974, which more than a few of his friends and colleagues interpreted as confirmation of the rumors that he had gone insane. They wondered whether this was the result of years of drug abuse or simply the outcome of the many experiences of existential pain which he had suffered throughout his life. In actuality, the visions began early in his life and reached the summit of enlightenment in 1974. He considered those visions a gift from the Holy Spirit, who would rescue him from the ersatz world where he had suffered so much. He also noted in 1976, this is from the published Exegesis, page 212, he noted, "It is bootless to screw around and think it is anyone but Christ who arranged my 374 experience. This is not a contradiction, since the Holy Spirit and Christ are both members of the Trinity." Okay, I'm closing that file. My picture, oh, here we go. My picture went to sleep for a minute. It's back. Well, Nephilim just love to infest. Look, demons don't need to go after evil people. They've already got them. They attack the good people, the believers. I got that from Father Malachi Martin, the famous exorcist, who also wrote an entire book about how evil the Jesuits are. And he knew because he was a Jesuit and he got the Pope himself to release him from his Jesuit vows. Oh, region is Nephilim infested. You didn't mean religion, you meant region. Well, California is. Oh, Tim has read Hostage to the Devil. I have that book. I'm afraid to read it. Tyler Desjardins. I don't know. Phil read Tylard's work, or at least read about his work, but I don't know. I don't think Phil thought he was evil. He was self-educated, but gave himself a wonderful education in philosophy and literature. And we agreed that Hemingway was a hack and Faulkner was a genius. And yet Phil's own writing often Hemingway's than Faulkner's. Faulkner was a master of the interior monologue, where a character is just thinking to himself. Like The Sound and the Fury. Many people are put off by the opening chapter because they don't understand it. But I was so fascinated by his prose that I didn't think I needed to understand it. I'll give you a hint. He's inside the mind of an autistic, uh, well, I'll say boy, but he's probably a grown man physically. And this autistic man is watching people play golf. But Faulkner never tells you that. You learn later that I've forgotten his name. I forgot the character's name. Well, anyway, when he was young, he had a pony that they kept in a pasture, and the family really was running out of money. They had once had a great landed estate and lots of money, but everything was falling apart: finances, morals, the house, and they had to sell this pasture to pay the bills. And the people who bought the pasture had turned it into a golf course. I gotta look that up. I gotta, how could I forget his name? All right, see if Google will tell me. Character list on good old Spark Notes. Benji! How could I forget Benji's name? Nathaniel Hawthorne? Underrated? Well, I haven't read much of his, but I think he's the one who wrote about a woods. Goodman Brown takes a walk in the woods with the devil, thinking it'll do no harm to just walk a while. It ruins his life. He can never go back to being a good man. Goodman. Phil kind of dabbled in the New Age, but he didn't think it was on the right track. He sometimes belittled New Age ideas. But he did claim that he could see auras. Yes, young Goodman Brown. I think that was Hawthorne. They made me read The Scarlet Letter, too. I'm glad I did. What I really don't understand is the naturalist movement in literature, like Jack London, to build a fire. In real life, the guy who's freezing in the snow and can't light a fire will die, just like in the story, but we want him to be rescued, or at least for someone to find his body and give it a proper burial, and maybe help his wife if he has one. There's none of that in naturalism. I'm trying to remember the author and title of other stories of or novels that made me read, but it's always, and the worst thing about naturalism is that the lower classes always come to a bad end. If they achieve wealth, fame, power, it destroys them because they're the lower classes. They aren't the entitled elite who deserve wealth, fame, and power. That is so wrong. So many of these elites have god awful children, and so many people in the lower classes have wonderful children. Even if they aren't so wonderful themselves, they've been battered around by a hard life. I've seen parents who did not deserve their children, scumbag parents with good children, and good parents with scumbag children. It isn't a matter of class, it's a matter of what. And frankly, God doesn't make trash. Even the most depraved human being, the lowest of the low, you could say evil or demon possessed, is a human being, made in the image of God and has some value, some worth. Yeah. And yet, yeah, rich grown up children. Oh, like the rags to riches story of Bill Gates working in his parents' garage to build a computer. Excuse me. Bill Gates didn't have to worry about rent, food, clothing, or even entertainment. His parents were wealthy. He had an allowance that was probably more than ever made in a month by working. I tried to learn coding. I got a Commodore 64, could a hard drive to save the code I was writing. And I've learned since that people who bought the hard drive found that it didn't work anyway. But I learned basic Commodore basic coding, and I couldn't go beyond that because I couldn't afford a computer that would actually let me higher level codes or the machine language, the 16 digit stuff. I could have used that. I didn't have a computer that would run it. And the computers available to me when I was teaching were just input. You could just use whatever programs. Oh, hey, my my connection should not be unstable. I'm on my 15 gigs of high speed internet, according to Verizon. Yeah, my signal should be strong enough to run a silly YouTube video, and yet it keeps kind of wobbling. Well, anyway, now I'm more into the exegesis than anything else, and it takes up most of my time. I'm still trying to finish this horrendous book that delves into all of Phil's work because the exegesis, in many ways, springs out of that work. Oh man, my eyes hurt from reading, my fingers hurt from typing, but it's getting. I was about a fourth of the way through. Now I'm about 100 pages and possibly 300, but nothing like the 1,000 pages of the published book, which is only a tiny fraction of the more than 10,000 pages that Phil wrote. And those were just his notes. He never made a finished document that he would want to publish. Never did. Didn't live long enough. In some ways, I think that his work on the exegesis killed him. He ignored his health, and he should have taken better care of himself. Oh, my rainbow hat. Yeah, I bought this from a charity yard sale that supported the Boys and Girls Club, and I paid too much for it. But I've had it 10 years and it's still in good shape, and you can wash it in the machine. I wouldn't put it in the dryer though. I hang it in the sun to dry. The colors don't fade, but this type of fuzzy yarn is kind of delicate, so I might tumble it in a cool dryer. I wouldn't put it in a hot dryer. I'm looking for chocolate. Reese's Pieces. I have a big Reese's peanut butter cup somewhere. I bought a pack of 2 and I ate only 1. Yeah, here it is. Oh, and soon I will have to sign off and let the kiddies go OUT to play. They know that word. I can't say it out loud. Yeah, the hot dryer would damage the fibers, Sandra. You're right. Oh, Lord. Anyway, remember, mind over matter is a real thing. It's on my t-shirt. It does work for example, the whole time I've been talking to you, I have not noticed the pain in my back. It's not just my spine and smushed, what are they called? Oh, geez. Well, smushed discs. I can remember vertebrae, but not discs. It isn't just that. I've got kidney stones all the time, and they're always too small for the urologist to do anything for me. But I've discovered that my constant craving for lemonade and the juice out of a pickle jar is well founded. Those acids help to reduce the size and number of kidney stones. Anyway, I didn't notice the pain while I was reading and talking to you. Oh man, my connection is unstable. I didn't notice the pain in my back while I was doing this podcast, talking to you and reading from my book in progress. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I'm probably going to be a guest on another YouTube channel. More on that next week. Haven't set a date yet. All right, and it's time to sign off with thank you all for listening and have a great day. Here we go. I'm so glad you all dropped by. No plans for ground zero at this time. I'm friends with the producer on Facebook, but I haven't nudged him. I just wait till he asks me to call in. I was on ground zero not too long ago, about a month maybe. Apparently, Clyde Lewis is a great fan of Phil's, so he loves to hear from me. But he never lets me promote my books, but I haven't asked. But I do listen to Ground Zero quite often. And sometimes I watch a YouTube journalist. Let's see. Oh, every Thursday I try to catch Giza Death Star Community when Joseph Farrell does a live about 15-minute exploration of some of the news. Um, I usually end up watching the replay and missing the live um, podcast, I guess it is, on YouTube. He doesn't do it at a set time. He does it when he can find the time. You're all wonderful, but I've got to get going. Let's see. Clyde Lewis Ground Zero. I don't know. It's 7 p.m. Pacific, plus 8 hours for the UK. 7 and 8 is about 3 in the morning. And if you just Google uh, Clyde Lewis Ground Zero, uh, I wrote PP instead of PM, not PP. Um, you'll find a link to the site that he's on. Okay, gotta go. Have a wonderful day.